Anna, can I hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So it means that it is working. Is it Rebecca or Anna? Because Hannah called me. So is he online?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Rebecca.
Yeah, you can call me Becky.
Okay. Hi, Becky. How are you?
Not too bad in yourself.
I'm good. Happy Sunday.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Okay. Okay. He just wanted to test to make sure that I'm able to join. So I'm going to log off right now and come back later. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, it's okay. Good morning, Josiane. Oh, it looks like she dropped. Once the meeting goes live, they wouldn't be hearing any. Everyone has their voting cards
Yep.
set up and everything.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the annual general meeting of the Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. The meeting will start in 10 minutes. Please start finding your seat. Thank you.
That's what I was gonna come do.
Good morning, everyone. Please take your seats for an on-time departure. If you do not yet have a voting card, please pick it up from the registration desk. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the annual general meeting of the Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. My name is Jim Bell. I'm the secretary. We are called to order. Before we begin, I'd like to point out that the fire exit is through the door there to my left. If you need a washroom, it is back through the main entrance just inside the double doors, or just past the double doors. I ask that you turn your cell phones to mute, which I will also do, and ensure that you have your voting cards. For those watching the live stream, use the chat function to ask questions. Moderators will be monitoring the chat. For those online, there is no voting option. For those in person, hold up your voting card to vote and return the voting card to the staff after the meeting, please. I'd like to introduce our board of directors. Our chair, Doug Ronan. It's okay if you stand, Doug. Past chair, Bill Mahoney. Eastern Vice Chair, Ashlyn Dale. Western Vice Chair, Ken Zakwich. Treasurer, Henry Voss. Sigmund Sort from BC. Warwick Patterson from BC. Candice Pardo from Saskatchewan. Grant Bailey from Northern Ontario. Dave Sprague, outgoing director from Southern Ontario. Jonathan Beauchesne from Quebec. Pierre Drapeau from Quebec. Brian Pinsent from the Maritimes. Stephen McCarthy from the Maritimes. And that is our 2024 Board of Directors. The Henry, Ken, Brian, Dave, and I are leaving the board after today. The notice of meeting. Oh, first of all, let's talk about the agenda. Here is today's agenda. The critical item is that when we get to item O, we are finished. Back there. All right. So, all right, let's back up one sec here. There we go. All right, notice of meeting was published in the COPA Flight magazine, in the COPA eFlight newsletter, and on the website. Confirmation of quorum. We have 54 members in attendance today, and we have lost my number of proxies, sorry. And we have 61 proxies. The agenda, to move to approve the agenda. Moved by me, seconded by Henry. Discussion of the agenda. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Passed. Adoption of the previous minutes. Moved by Sigmund Sort. Seconded by Bill. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Passed. There is no business arising from the previous minutes. Next item is the report of the chair.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Doug Ronan. I'm the chair of the board of COPA, and I would like to welcome you all here today. We are very honored to be here at the Warplane Heritage Museum with our 2024 AGM, because it's very special to all of us here at COPA to be here on the celebrating the 100th anniversary of the RCAF, surrounded by this unbelievable flying collection of its proud history. The COPA board and staff have been very busy in the last year. Our president and CEO, Mark Van Berkel, and his amazing staff have made great progress on many fronts. A few examples are implementing our new customer resource management system, which has been a giant leap forward for us for keeping track of everything and being able to serve the members better. Our new website has been totally redone, and it's working way better than the older one. Making Canadian Flight magazine more a journal of the association. That's still a work in progress, but we've had lots of comments about the improvements we've made. And we've taken our eFlight newsletters that we email out to all the members in-house, so we've made them more of a about COPA by COPA, and a total redesign of the Canadian plane trade sales website with other online sales to compete with other online sales sites. Various advocacy issues, including taking in an industry lead on the night VFR NPA, which some of you would probably be pretty concerned about. And we managed to get transport to basically shelve it for the time being. Responding to the ADSB Class B mandate and dealing with ongoing issues with pilots' medicals, to name a few of the issues we've been dealing with. We've entered into a licensing agreement with Red Canoe, which is Canada's largest aviation apparel retailer, and they're coming out with some pretty interesting new shirts and hats, and that's again a work in progress. And the big issue with that for COPA is it is a licensing agreement, so they do all the work, and we just get the revenue from it. Well, and it works out well because they're professionals at it, and they have a really good line of products. We also launched the COPA Academy, in a partnership between COPA's Flight Safety Foundation and the Search and Rescue New Initiatives Fund. And in my 20 plus years of being directly involved with COPA, I can say that we are accomplishing great things, and I look forward to continuing this positive momentum in the future. With the board and the staff we have now, we're really moving ahead. And I want to personally thank all of our outgoing directors for their service to COPA and its members, and also welcome the new directors who have stepped up for the next 4 years. And again, I welcome all of you today, and hope you have a great day in the museum today. Thanks for coming.
Good morning. I'm Mark Van Berkel. I'm the President CEO of the Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. It's nice to see actually all of you come out here and spend some time with us. Sometimes when we're in Ottawa, we're not always connecting with the members as much as we like. So we like it when we see people come out and see our things and tune in on live stream, because they're paying attention to what we're doing. This part of the agenda is the President's report, which really is a business part of it. At the end of the meeting, when we conclude business, we're going to have a little bit of a presentation on what we've done in the last year and what we're seeing, and you're going to meet some of my staff and that. So we'll spend some time doing that, and then we'll take the questions and answers. But just to give you some of the updates on where COPA is right now. And this is my second AGM. Like the last time I was at the AGM, I had been in the job just a couple weeks. So this is my second one, but I feel a little bit more comfortable this time talking about things. The current membership of COPA is 11,120 members. And we had, in the last 12 months since the last AGM, we've had 1,235 new or renewed memberships, which is good. So what does that mean? It really means that our membership has been pretty stable over the last 12 months. That doesn't mean that we are not looking to gain more members, or we can't bring more members back into COPA, which is what all of our job is to do. But essentially, the current membership of the association is pretty stable. We're going to hear from our virtual CFO, and she's going to go into more details of the finances. But essentially, we're a $1.6 million association. We have $1.6 million of revenue. And basically, our expenses are almost exactly that as well. What does that mean? It means that the association is in a stable condition. So that, again, membership is stable, finances are stable. Doug did talk about this, but the core things that we do is connecting with members, communicating with members, and advocating for members. That's the core thing that COPA National does for the membership. You already did a great job of stealing my thunder to talk about all the advocacy things that we've done. But essentially, at the high level things, we're advocating for ADSB mandates. The General Aviation Safety Working Group, we're part of that. We're built into that. We're dealing a lot still with TC Medicals, Transport Canada Medicals, and the NAV Canada fees. We're dealing with these types of things, and various airport issues. These are the things very high level that we're hearing. We know that there's a lot of work and that members need us to help with, and we're standing by. But we're really focusing on these high-level national interest types of things. Really, this is why COPA at the local level is important, because the COPA flights and the COPA regional directors can help with those regional issues you might have with airports and landing fees and that. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do to reinvigorate what COPA is to the membership. As far as programs and communications, Doug mentioned we did launch a new member management system. It's leaps and bounds from where we were. It's not perfect. We understand that. We know that there's been some challenges with some of the members getting in, logging on, but we're here to help you. And I know there's people that don't understand why we made those changes, but it was structurally required for us to make those changes to take COPA into the next few years, and that we were at the end of life of a system that was not going to get us to where we needed to go. Events, we're hosting multiple events. I think we had in the last Last year we had 35 Discovery Aviation events. Discovery Aviation is the core event to introduce new people, younger pilots, but newer people into aviation, and we're focusing on those types of things. We're going to be, actually in August and September is going to be a busy time for Copa National. We're going to be at 5 different air shows in order. We're going to be at Abbotsford, then we're going to be at Edmonton, then we're going to be at Atlantic, we're going to be at Gatineau, and then we're going to be at London Air Show. So if you're attending those air shows, look for us there, because we are going to be there and we have member tents and things set up for you. So at the end of this, like I said, we're going to give a bit more of a presentation, but that's the business part of the President's Report. Thank you.
(2024) is an election year for COPA. Half of the directors are elected every 2 years. So this year, we replaced, or correction, we held elections for directors in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Northern Ontario, Maritimes, and Newfoundland. The following persons were elected or claimed in their regions: Robert Japp for Alberta Northwest Territories, Candace Pardo in Saskatchewan, Becky Duick for Manitoba and Nunavut, Grant Bailey for Northern Ontario, Stephen McCarthy for the Maritimes, Robert Hammond for the Maritimes, and Bill Mahoney for Newfoundland and Labrador. In accordance with the bylaws, we require a motion to approve these elections and acclamations. Therefore, I move that we elect the slate of directors for the COPA board elections. Seconded by Henry. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Passed. All right. Next item, and let's move to accept the reports as well. So move to accept the reports, Ashlyn, and seconded by Pierre, sorry. And all in favor? Opposed? Passed. Thank you. All right. Next item is the Treasurer and Auditor's Report.
Can you hear me okay at the back there? Good. Love the sound of those radial engines that went over just a little earlier. Wasn't that nice for them to organize that for us this morning? I'm not sure about this one outside right now. But it's been a great opportunity for me to serve as a treasurer of COPA for the last 4 years. I've enjoyed my time here. Our CFO will be talking a little bit more about the role of the Finance Committee at COPA. But I wanted to just mention a few of the additional activities that the Finance Committee took on this year, in addition to the normal duties that we do as a Finance Committee. The one big project that we did, and our committee members, first of all, are myself as the treasurer, Jonathan Beauchesne, Bill Mahoney, and Pierre Drapeau. Doug Ronan also sits as ex officio on the Finance Committee. But the additional activities that we took on this year were a complete review of the terms of reference of the committee. And that's really the structure around what the committee does, what its role and responsibility is. So the terms of reference were reviewed and renewed. We went through a request for proposals from a group of auditors to confirm the auditor that we're recommending for next year. And then we're also responsible for the oversight of the Flight Safety Foundation and the Freedom to Fly Fund. So those are duties of the Finance Committee. Again, this will be my last report as your treasurer. I'm finished my term. And I particularly want to thank Mark Van Berkel and Michelle in the office for all of the support that the committee needed, along with Zivo, who is our finance group, our CFO, and especially Josie Ann and Said at Zivo, and you're going to see Said on the screen shortly. So thanks to all of those people, and thanks to my fellow board members for their support in conducting the activities of the Finance Committee. So I'll turn it over to Zivo.
Thank you, Henry. Just want to make sure you can hear me okay. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to present the COPA audited financials for the fiscal year end 2023. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we delve into COPA financial reporting, I would like to highlight the responsibilities of the Finance, Audit, and Risk Committee. The committee responsibilities are to provide oversight of accounting practices and the financial reporting process, to ensure the quality and integrity of internal accounting and control systems. Also select and provide oversight of the external auditor and ensure the auditor's independence. We also regularly meet as a committee and review the financial statements, which are then provided to the board for review and approval. We also oversee all aspects of risk management and ensure continuity of operations, protection of assets, and proper insurance coverage. And finally, we ensure that COPA is in compliance with any statutory filings. The ultimate goal for the Finance Committee is to continue to provide the best possible value that meets the needs and expectation of our stakeholders, members, and operations. Next slide, please. The audit was conducted by Fram Group Professional Corporation. It was conducted in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. In auditor's opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. The financial position of COPA as of December 31st, 2023, and the results of its operations and cash flow for the year ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. Next slide, please. Overall, COPA is in a healthy financial position. Our cash balance at the year end was $350,000. Short-term investments, $309,000. This consists of cash held in a high-interest savings account, which is used to hold excess cash, but also have it readily available for cash flow needs if needed. Total current assets for the fiscal year ending 2023 were $806,000. Long-term investments, $2.4 million. The overall portfolio composition is for the long-term investments is 40% fixed income funds, equities 55%, and other assets 5%. Total assets at end year were $3.198 million, remaining nearly consistent with the last year balance of $3.204 million. Next slide, please. Total liabilities at year end is $1.093 million, reflecting a 10% reduction compared to last year of $1.21 million. Included in liabilities, major portion is AP, accounts payable, and accrued liabilities of $154,000, CBA loan $40,000, and deferred membership of $858,000. One thing I would like to note that the COPA was granted CEBA loan, risk-free loan of $60,000. However, in accordance with government stipulated deadlines, if repaid on time, $20,000 or 34% of the loan would be forgiven. COPA successfully met the criteria and it was repaid. Therefore, as a result, in fiscal year 2023, we recognized $20,000 as revenue. Net assets for the year were $2.1 million. Net assets have increased by 6% from last year. This growth in net assets signified strengthened financial stability of COPA. Next slide, please. Moving on to the revenue and expense side of the financial statements, total revenue for the year were $1.59 million, remaining consistent with last year's figures, with a very nominal decrease of 0.4%. The renewal source of revenue for 2023 were the Search and Rescue New Initiative Funds grant that was granted to COPA in the amount of $79,373 for the year 2023. Next slide, please. Total expenses of the COPA total is $1.761 million, increased from last year by 10%. The major reason for this increase primarily is because we wrote off inventory of almost $53,000, which was zero as in the last year financials. As well, we recognized some previously prepaid Fairmont credits, which were used for board meetings, about $78,000. Those two expenses, major expenses, is the reason of 10% increase. Otherwise, the activities of COPA remain consistent as last year. Next slide, please. This is the last slide of the profit and loss. The investment income in 2023 was $283,724. It's a significant improvement from a loss of $218,000 in 2022. Our investment portfolio has demonstrated growth over the past year. The effective management of fixed income assets and selective equity positioning are contributors to the overall positive performance of our investment portfolio. The net financial position for fiscal year 2023 stands at $116,804, marking a surplus position, again, a substantial improvement from the net deficit of $207,000 in 2022 from last year. This was the last slide of our financial presentation. This concludes the financial presentation for today. I would like to thank you for your time and turn it back to Henry.
Thank you very much, Saida, for the presentation. And I'll make the motion that we accept the finance and audit report. Seconder? Got Jim? Opposed? Thank you. It's carried. Motion to approve Fruan Group as auditors. This is a recommendation out of the Finance Committee after our RFP for auditors. I'll make that motion. And I see you're down as seconder, Jim. All in favor of Fruan as our auditor group? Opposed? Thank you. I think that's my role as treasurer here. And who do you have next, Jim?
As chair of the governance committee, let you know that the board has passed several mostly administrative changes to the bylaws. I bring these forward now, or we bring these forward for approval by the membership. These amendments were summarized in the notice of AGM and provided in detail on the website, so you're free to look at them before the AGM. The changed wording is highlighted in green. So in this case, we have tightened up the wording slightly for 505. 506 has been tightened up substantially, but the meaning of the text has not changed. This table is included with 506 and is meant only to clarify the wording of the text. One substantive change is that we are reducing the board meeting notice time required from 45 days to 14 days. We found that with electronic communications, 45 days was more than was needed, and so we would like to reduce it to a more workable number, which we agreed was 14 days. And another minor administrative change to approve directors' attendance at meetings by electronic means. Those are the amendments. Moved by me, seconded by Henry. All in favor? Opposed? Passed. Thank you. Next item is general business. Any new business for the board or for the AGM? Hearing none. A question and answer session will follow with Mark. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Phil? We are adjourned at 10:28. Nice quick AGM, I like it.
Well, thank you. That's good. So now that we've concluded the business part of it, we really wanted to have a little bit of a talk about what COPA has been doing in the last 12 months in 2023 and possibly what's happening in 2024 and what's happening beyond, because I think that there's some real transformational things that are going on. I think we do have a presentation, Sharon. Okay, just be a second. Okay, so really we wanted to just give a little bit of an update on where we are with COPA, and as I said, I joined May 15th of 2023, so it's really just been over a year from that I've been here. It's my second AGM, but I've really only been here a year. And so some of the things we wanted to talk about is the team. I think it's important for the members to understand, you know, we have 11,000 members from coast to coast to coast in Canada, but we have actually a pretty small team in Ottawa. And so we want to introduce you to that, and so you understand what everybody's doing there. But also just look a little bit about what's happened in 2023, the things we've done, because I think we've done a lot of good things. That's just basically the start of the work, though. It's not the end game at all. And then just look ahead about what 2024 is bringing and beyond. And recognizing our members, we're going to talk about, there were some awards given, so we're going to announce those today. And talk about the scholarship winners as well. And just talk about the different volunteer awards. So here's the team. There's myself, which I've introduced. And there's Michelle. Michelle, can you stand up? Michelle's the office manager and the executive administrator, and she helps out with the board type of things. Jim, if you want to stand up, he's our director of aviation operations, basically heads up all the advocacy work. He also was the interim president and CEO before they hired me. Sharon is doing our communications. She's actually responsible for a lot of what you're seeing on the screens and coordinating and getting our AV things and the live stream, the website and that. George, are you here? George is in the back. George works for Jim. He's also involved in the advocacy stuff and he's external relations for us. Hannah's in the back. Hannah works for Sharon, is doing a lot of the communication things. The e-flight bulletins that you see every other week, Hannah's in behind there. The Discover Aviation things that are going on, Hannah's involved with those types of things. And also working with the different flights and organizing the flights and insurance and things like that. Hannah is doing that. Delroy is a new member of the team. He's also working on the communication things and helping with actually getting our social media, the look and feel of the things. You'll see some graphics and videos and things. That's Hannah's work there. So what have we done in 2023 since halfway through 2023? We've actually done quite a bit. We started off by looking at the association and coming up and seeing the parts that needed to be fixed. One of the things that we first did was we looked at the member management system. The member management system that we had was something based on, it was called Civi. And it had been around for a long time, but really it had reached its end of life for the member management system. And we wanted to bring, first of all, we wanted to buy into something. What we were using before was almost like a community developed software program, and it didn't really have the support and longevity that the association was going to need. So we found something, and it wasn't perfect. We did a lot of research, and Jim was responsible for a lot of this research, but there had some specific criteria that we had to meet. And one of them is also just being bilingual. The ability to have French and English was a big function of it, and that did, narrow down some of our selection. But also the ability for members to be able to log in and manage their own accounts was very important to us as well. Part of that GlueUp system, and that GlueUp is the software package that we've bought and that we're buying and pay into. We didn't develop the software, we're users of it. That we own the data, so all of your data is owned by COPA and it isn't shared, but the system itself is something called GlueUp. It actually has part of the member management system. It also has a member forum, which we thought was important because we thought it was nice for members to be able to connect, ask questions, and share information. And we see some of that going on. We encourage all of the members to be more actively involved because we collectively have a lot of information and knowledge that we hopefully want to share with each other. And GlueUp does provide that ability to do that. We've also, reinvigorated with our general aviation safety working group. Jim's team is sitting on that. And safety is a big part of what COPA needs to do and to be the advocates of safety for general aviation. Transport Canada literally has one person that is dealing with general aviation safety. And they rely on COPA and our members to make sure that we continue to be safe, because it's very important. Flying your own airplane is not without its risks, and it's important that we conduct that activity as safely as possible. We also had looked at, and Sharon's going to get into this, but we looked at the magazine and we looked at the e-flights, and we've really tried to build this to become a journal of the association, both of them. We want to be an association of members, about the members, and by the members. This is a collective thing. Aviation is not something we do in a vacuum. It's very important that we share this with each other, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. COPA by the numbers, we have 160 active chapters, and interestingly, and we have a gentleman here who's been a member for 70 years, he's here as well. But look, we have a lot of long-term members. Between 30 and 40 years, we have 1,009 members that have been for between 30 and 40 years. Between 40 and 50 years, 550 members. And 50, 60 years, 326. And 60 plus years, we have over 112 members. And that's really important because I think it's important for us to recognize that what we have today in general aviation in Canada is because of the members, the previous members. And we are stewards of general aviation in the future, and we have to remember that. So that's our commitment as COPA members, to make sure that there's a future generation of aviation in Canada, general aviation in Canada. So with that, I'm going to turn this over. Is this your part of the presentation? This is Sharon's part of the presentation. So Sharon's going to talk a little bit about what our communication and events and programs have been for the next year.
Thanks, Mark. I'm a bit smaller, admittedly, so can everyone see me? Good. Let me just advance the slides here. So definitely a pleasure to see everybody here. Thank you for coming out, and it's always nice to be able to put a face to a name to some of the members. With some of the work that we're doing, and Doug had already mentioned it as well as Mark, so I won't spend too much time, but we've done a lot of work on our communications. I oversee all of our marketing and communications efforts, and we did conduct a brand audit at the tail end of last year to ask some of our members, are we meeting the kind of the promise as to who we say we are, and what kind of movement do we need to do? How can we improve the perception of what members have of us, and to continue building authority or credibility as a general aviation leader. And so that influences a lot of what we do. Mark had mentioned a lot about communicating and connecting and advocating, and so you'll hear a lot more from us about some of the stories of our members. If you yourself have a story you'd like to share, or know of somebody who has stories to share, we are interested in hearing about that. So we did launch our COPA Aviation Academy. Essentially, it was us evolving our safety seminars online to an e-learning portal. We have tons of courses on there already, and we're looking to add more. Loss of control, some fun, lighter stuff on cross-country flying, and human factors. Not as light, but a different topic. And so we're looking to add more there. As for our scholarship program, it continues to grow. When I first started about 3.5 years ago, we were seeing about 60 applications per year. And 2 years in a row now, we're up to 800 applications for our scholarship program. I think that speaks to the number of very interested, aspiring pilots out there. And our job from the COPA front is to continue sourcing some funding and to make those opportunities available. And I believe Mark had mentioned that Hannah and I were closely on that scholarship program. We also have our Discover Aviation program, which we're looking to grow and mature as well, from the intro flights that you see today, and really encouraging you as COPA members or COPA flight members to see it as a recruitment tool. Of course, it's always nice to offer flights to young future pilots, but we have plenty of folks in our neighborhoods and communities who might be interested in getting started today. So how do we equip them to continue to start that journey? Now, our website, it is a website, and I know everyone here has seen a website before, but what makes it special for us is that now we have members-only access, so we're looking to update a lot of our aviation guides. That's on Jim and George there, but offering more resources to our membership as well as to our chapters. So there'll be some gated content that's only accessible to our members. We're looking to turn the website into that go-to resource for pilots. I won't speak too much to what that looks like today, but we have a lot of ambition and goals for what that could look like for members as well as non-members who are thinking, or prospective members who are thinking to join. With that communicating that I was referencing earlier, we're looking to improve the existing communication channels that we have. So you'll see us getting more out there with video work for social media. Our magazine, it now has a healthier balance of stories from our members, stories on community, lifestyle, travel, of course some of the more technical stories that you're interested in as well, and more diversity in terms of the speakers, the writers that we have, the contributors, and in sourcing some sponsors to help, or advertisers to continue growing what that looks like. And so you'll see the magazine continuing to evolve, and we'll push more and more of those stories online. Speaking of other channels, we will be launching a podcast as well. For those of you who are lurking online and trying to be less and less on social media, we've got something for everybody, and it'll be an opportunity to hear on a more frequent basis of what's happening at the COPA office, as we'll always start every episode with some updates from COPA National and include some interviews from some of our members and some interesting updates as well. And I believe Red Canoe was already mentioned, but we're revisiting what we offer in terms of for members to use the logo. We'll also be updating our brand guidelines so that chapters have more parameters to work with so that we can amplify the COPA brand and it's more visible within the community. One last thing that we're quite excited about is to create more touch points for our members from an in-person perspective. We've hosted events in the past, but we know that our regions, all of you, your chapters, you host events as well, and so we're investing more and more into the activities that you have. Of course, there are some requirements that you register your events to receive the event insurance. But new this year that we're introducing is members-only tents at air shows across Canada so that pilots can connect at various air shows. This year we'll have a members-only tent at the Aero Gatineau Air Show, the London Air Show closer here, the Alberta Air Show in Edmonton, Villeneuve area, as well as the Atlantic Air Show in Greenwood this year. And so if you are planning to attend any of those events, keep an eye out for COPA members only tents. Last thing from me is we appreciate and we value your membership, and we know that there's no one size fits all when it comes to being a COPA member, and so the value that you find might be in insurance or in safety training. One of the other areas that we stretch your dollar as much as possible is offering you perks and benefits. So we've got all kinds of plans of cell phone, travel, of course aviation experiences as well, so more to come. Please visit our website to go onto the gated web page for the specific member benefits. That's it from me for today, and I'll move it over to, if I can click in the right direction, over to Jim.
I am taller than Sharon, so I guess I need to do that. It's good to see everybody here again, my third annual general meeting, so happy to be here, happy to see people again, as I said. So, busy year. Myself and George, as was mentioned, are the focal point for advocacy for the association. Being two people, as you all can imagine, there is a lot going on in the aviation industry, which keeps us very busy. So these are really some of the highlights from the last year. So a lot of our time is spent, and it's been mentioned, the General Aviation Safety Program. So COPA was a founding member with Transport Canada creating this program. It used to be the General Aviation Safety Campaigns. Now the programming, it's ongoing with Transport Canada. There are now 9 working groups. 3 new ones were added this year. One was safety equipment, which is going to look at additional safety or non-regulated safety equipment, NORSI, that can be added to aircraft. A communications group, which is hoping to improve the amount of information coming out of the program and make it more available to the general flying public. That communication group has Sharon sitting on it, and she's going to be a large contributor to that, so we're very happy with that. And the final third one that was added was the mental health working group, and George is actually the chair of that working group with Transport Canada. So lots of changes happening on the mental health side with Transport Canada Medical, so more information is going to be coming over the next few years. Another topic that I'm sure everybody is aware of is the challenges with aerodromes. So we're very aware, and we've dealt with a lot of issues this year with regard to different aerodromes. In particular, well, we've seen Buttonville, of course, close. There's a few others in Ontario that we know municipalities are examining the feasibility of the airports long term, and they're looking at different options there. And it's something challenging all across the country as well. So we're continuing to watch that. We have commissioned reports on the financial benefits of airports to communities, so we try to get that to municipalities as much as we possibly can. We did also hold a survey this past year, so many of you may have participated in it. We had 613 response on how your aerodrome is serving GA. And interestingly, we found that overall, 366 of those 613, so over 50%, felt their airport was GA friendly. So that was encouraging to see. 76% of respondents actually found that or felt that their hangar costs were reasonable. And final little statistic was 57% of people were $500 or less per month for hangar rentals. So that's something we're going to continue to monitor. We'll probably have recurring surveys over time to try and keep a sort of state of the union of aerodromes. Another topic that is not just us, but around the world is the 100 low lead challenge. So obviously, most people are probably aware the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States has now said that no level of lead is safe. There is pressure to remove leaded fuel, period. With that, there has been a commitment to try and have a viable alternative by 2030, which so far the Environmental Protection Agency has allowed the FAA and other groups to work towards that goal. The encouraging thing is I was in Washington about a month ago, got some updates on this. It was very interesting. So there are now 2 candidates of 100 unleaded fuel. So many of you may be aware that GAMI was given an approval for it about a year ago. That particular candidate actually is now available from a distributor in the US. So we don't know about Canada and when we can start to see it, but it is starting to be distributed if people want it. The second candidate by Swift Fuels is in final approvals with the FAA, and that is expected to happen within the next couple of months. So we're looking to see how distribution networks, availability, and that kind of stuff comes out this year. So we're continuing to monitor that. We had 2 surprise NPAs that you're probably aware of in the last year. The first one was NPA 2023-005, which was about changing rules for night VFR. COPA led the charge on this with other industry groups, and through the response in particular by the members. So they had over 300 responses to this, including COPA's detailed response to it. And the result of that was 2024 is a year where Transport Canada redoes their 2-year plan for regulatory programs. And this year, 2024, they removed that regulatory change from their program. It doesn't mean it's gone away forever. We're hoping it means it's gone away forever, but we're going to continue to watch it, but we know that at least for 2 years, no work's going to be done on that. So that was a big win for us. The second one was NPA 2024-001, which came out in January of 2024, and where we discovered that hidden in a leasing and registration NBA, there was a change in the definition of an ultralight aircraft, which would effectively have changed the ability for somebody with an ultralight pilot's license to be able to actually operate their aircraft. If it was registered as a regular aircraft rather than with a CF or a CG registration rather than a CI. So they have repealed that part of the NPA, and they're not going to go forward with that, but leave it as it is with the weight restrictions. Medicals and licensings again was mentioned. We continue to see problems on the medical processing front. Those that are not complicated situations seem to be moving through fairly well, but we continue to see a lot of problems with anybody who has any kind of underlying condition that Transport Canada is not being very quick in finding basically the resolutions for people. So it's taking a long time for a lot of those ones to be resolved. So we continue to work trying to change that. NAV Canada, of course, many of you may have experienced restrictions in VFR around some of the major centers. We're continuing to see that. We're told it was staffing. Staffing is improving, but we're still seeing restrictions. Transport Canada is aware of it. We've had a number of conversations with them about it. So we're not sure where it's going to go. We continue to press, but we really need people to continue to report. The more reports we have of these situations gives us ammunition to go to Transport Canada and say, you know, you cannot be doing this. That being said, there has been some acknowledgement in some of the meetings we've had that there are certain airports across the country, in particular some training units, where the airport itself is becoming basically over capacity. So depending on the runway configurations or taxiway configurations, certain airports can only have so many movements in a particular hour, for example. And we're seeing a lot of challenges in a few airports, particularly the big flight training units sites that this is happening, and the proposals that are starting to come out that we're trying to work through are how do you manage that capacity and how you will ensure that the flight training units in particular and general aviation continues to have access to these airports. This is ongoing. It's going to be ongoing for some time, as you can imagine, but we're continuing to monitor it. ADS-B mandate, of course, Mark mentioned it. May 16th, Class B airspace came in. Mark wrote a letter to both the Minister and NAV Canada, President and CEO, basically asking about how people who physically cannot re-equip their aircraft, being that there's, what do we say, about 1,000 types? Yeah, about 1,000 different aircraft types, that there is no modification that can be done to create a diversity solution for them. Interestingly, NAV Canada seemed to completely oblivious to that fact until it was brought up. They did commit to us that Class B airspace will not be closed to people without diversity, but they still are requiring the accommodation proposal or accommodation request within 3 days or 3 days or more before the intended flight, which we think is much too long. We all know that our flight in any particular day is weather dependent on the rest, so that we're trying to work on them to look to reduce that notice period so that people can have access quicker. Again, ongoing Class A, C, D, and E airspace again has been moved to not before 2028. So we're continuing to work with them, and they have committed to having more discussions with us in particular about how that's going to look when we start looking at Class C, D, and E airspace. So again, takes a lot of our time. Luxury tax, just quickly on it, for those of you who don't know, the Standing Committee on Finance from the government actually recommended to the government before the last budget that the aircraft clause of $100,000 be removed, that it wasn't appropriate. That committee's recommendation was not obviously followed in the budget, and so the budget itself came out with no changes. So other than that, there's no more significant developments. Most of us working on this issue believe we probably need a government change in order to find a change to this rule. 406 ELTs, everybody, next year, 2025, the mandate's still coming. D&D, of course, is the big backer for this move. They just recently reached out to us asking for local flights to reach out to them, and I believe Sharon sent it out, or Hannah sent it out in the last e-flight for a contact that if you have people that are interested in finding out more about it, you can reach out and they will actually engage with you and help you get the information you need. Final one, basic med in Canada. It's a big topic in the US. Again, when I was in Washington last month, AOPA in the US pressed me on it again about what's happening. They have over 80,000 pilots now flying under basic med in the United States, including the FAA commissioner. So they're very, very interested in having some kind of accommodation for their pilots in Canada, and they would support us if we could find a similar type of process in Canada where we could allow people to get their medicals, in particular if you're a general aviation pilot, without having to go through the full-blown CAMI process. So we're continuing to look at that. Interestingly, IAOPA, so the International Council of Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, has a ICAO, started a discussion at ICAO, so there is now a working group looking at the feasibility of what's called a ICAO Class 2 restricted license, potentially being something that's recognized worldwide. Still things to be worked through on it, but it is working through ICAO, so that in itself would create an international standard to allow some kind of medical process that doesn't need civil aviation medical every single time. So those are ones we continue to work on. We get surprised every once in a while when NPAs come out and other proposals we see in aeronautical circulars and so on. So if any of you see things and get surprised by things or have questions on them, please reach out to George or myself. Being two, sometimes we get surprised that we don't catch everything that's out there. So if you can say, hey, do you know about this? We're good with that too. So With that, I'll pass it back. I guess it goes back to Mark. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the day. Gets to look at these great airplanes. It's sort of a kid in a candy store for those of us. So enjoy.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Sharon. We just wanted to take a few minutes here to go through our awards and scholarships. We used to have a bit of a presentation thing, but all of the winners of the awards and scholarships have been notified, but we just wanted to acknowledge them here in a general thing. If your name is announced, please stand up so we can see you while you're here. So the special awards, the John Bogey Memorial Award, has been awarded to Michael Bellamy this year. The President's Award to Horst and Claudine Romani. The Chair's Award to Bob Gillis. The Editor's Award to Mike Sattler. The Copa Flight Excellence Award to Copa Flight 65, the Vernon Flying Club. The Director's Awards are Harvey Epp, Rob McDicken, Vicky Lafrancois, Eldon Jesdell, Dr. Trent Ray, Craig Schoenberg, Rick Nida, Rick, thank you, Vic Snellgrove, Doug Riley, Danielle Morissette, Brian Hood, Jim Thompson, Jim Thornson, Dave McLean, William Stewart, and Kimberly Williams. These are the COPA Volunteer Awards for 2024. Our scholarship winners this year, so the Neil J. Armstrong AB Intro Scholarship is going to, and that's a really small screen here, so Jacob Insato, I might be announcing that wrong, I'm sorry. The Copa New Wings Scholarship to Amelia Welsh, and I think I saw Amelia yesterday, she was here, I'm not sure if she's here today. And the Copa Advanced Flight Training Scholarship to Tren Semison. I'm really having trouble reading it, so I might not get all the pronunciation. Andy Stroll, that's even worse, because it's at an angle. Andy Stroll, Trevor Meek, and Ifeoluwa Olitan. So I apologize for my bad pronunciation. But thank you to all of the, congratulations to all of the scholarship winners. So the last little bit of what I wanted to talk about, closing remarks, and I know that some of you have, you've made arrangements to go on the 11 o'clock tour, so I won't take this very long. One of the things I often hear from the members asking is, well, why am I a member of COPA? And I think that all associations probably struggle with this. You know, when 1952, when COPA was established, it really was a grassroots kind of organization where I could imagine that a few people meeting at a local airport and coffee shop, and they recognized each other and said, hey, I fly an airplane, you fly an airplane. Well, why don't we get together and start talking about airplane stuff and what we can do? So I can imagine that that's the climate of 1952, and through the years it grew, and we had people come into the association and they joined like that. But things have really changed, and the way we think about things, the way that humans communicate today, it's not the same as it was in 1952. It's not even the same it was in 1992. We are far more easily able to connect with one another electronically and share messages and share ideas. And I'm members of multiple aircraft groups and forums and that, and have friends and membership all over the world. So why COPA? What is COPA doing for us that I can't get anywhere else? And the reality is you only need to look around here. You only need to look around and see these aircraft that are here and recognize that what we share in aviation in Canada today came from the four founders. Those group of people that were sitting in 1952 around a coffee shop and thinking about aviation and what it is, we are the recipients of that. We have the luxury of flying in Canada in our own private personal aircraft because of that. We owe a lot to those. We owe a lot of people that have contributed to aviation in Canada over the years. But specifically, our COPA membership and private aviation, what it is today, came from our forefathers, if I can say it like that, of COPA. So what I'm going to say to you today is we are the stewards of aviation of the future. Your COPA membership is not for today, and it's not what does COPA do for me today. It's ensuring that there's going to be general aviation in Canada in the future. Jim was telling me a story. He was at the IAOPA convention in Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago. And he met with the representative of Korea. Do you know how many airplanes there are in Korea? General aviation airplane? Exactly 3. So the reality is we enjoy aviation to an unbelievable degree, the freedom of flight to an unbelievable degree. So I challenge all of us as COPA members that we need to reach out. So the 3 parts of the COPA stool, if I can say that, is we connect, we communicate, and we advocate for general aviation in Canada. I'm asking all of you to make sure that we're connecting to the other aviation people and we're explaining that COPA is not about today. We do a lot of things, and Jim said a lot of the things we're doing for aviation today. But COPA is for aviation tomorrow. I'll say this, and I said this I went to the Aviation Day on the Hill and where we got to talk to MPs, and I said, general aviation in Canada is the canary in the coal mine for the aviation industry in the future in Canada. If we train the pilots, we train the mechanics, and every single airport in Canada that's a big airport started out as a small general aviation airport, including Pearson Airport. And so I would say that when general aviation, private aviation in Canada is in recession, which arguably it might be, that the future aviation industry in Canada will be in depression. So we, as stewards of the future aviation industry in Canada, need to understand that it's our responsibility, and we need to make sure that we collectively, because we don't do this in a vacuum, we have to have FBOs, we have to have airports, we have to have mechanics, we have to have CFIs, we have to have all of that. It's all part of a big ecosystem. So we collectively have to look out for one another and share one another. And so I ask all of you to consider when people say to you, well, why are you a member of COPA? That you remember that it's not for today, it's for the aviation industry of the future. Anyway, thank you. I stand between, we're going to have a lunch, I guess, at noon. And Hannah's giving me some symbols that I don't understand. Oh. There we go. I'm not supposed to say anything. I'm just supposed to point to the screen. Okay. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy the museum. I hope this has been a good meeting for you. I hope that you've seen, and thank you for taking the time to come out today on a Sunday. There is a lunch at noon, and there's a couple of tours that are going on, so please enjoy the museum. Thank you. Of course, I left out the biggest part of what people want to do. Questions and answers. So I think we have some, if there's some questions coming from the floor, we'll take those first, and then there were some ones online that Sharon's going to read out.
Is the mic on? Oh, perfect.
Any questions from the floor?
Ah.
Wait till Sharon comes to the
coming over to
microphone,
you.
because then people online can hear you as well.
Hi, my name's Edward Dawes. I'm a member of COPA for probably about 35 years.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to meet with us here today and talk about what's going on with the organization. I just wanted to ask one question. You mentioned that we are the canary in the coal mine of sorts, and looking around amongst the groups of, I assume the majority of us pilots, I think I see maybe one person under the age of 50, and I'm just wondering what COPA is doing to encourage younger people to join the organization and ensure that we do keep general aviation active in Canada, and if maybe there might be some consideration for incentives in terms of membership fees to encourage them to join the organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we do, so we have the Discover Aviation events, which there was 35, and there's a bunch this year still to come. And we do encourage younger people, but they're for everybody, by the way, but we do encourage younger people. We give out scholarships. Any student pilot in Canada gets a 1-year free membership. So if you are flight training in Canada and you apply and you give us a copy of your student permit, you get a free membership, actually. So we are trying to do that. You know, the younger folks, and I own a couple of them, okay? I own a couple of younger people, and they don't feel as passionate about it as we probably did. And I think that's a generational thing, maybe. There's a lot of things in people's lives in that. But I do have a son who flies a 737, and my other son could care less about aviation, but that's the way it goes. But certainly we are doing some things. The scholarships, the Discover Aviation, the student memberships, those are things we're trying. But we all have a responsibility to share aviation with one another. So,
If I could add on to that, just in case for those in the room who aren't familiar, the Discover Aviation program is, we had renamed the COPA for Kids program, where our COPA flights organize events offering introductory flights. And that's where you create those touch points with local community members and young people in your area. I personally get asked often by young people who are interested, what do I do when I go to the hangar and nobody wants to talk to me? So it's also a shared responsibility to create a welcoming environment for anybody, not just a young person, man or woman.
That's a good point, because some of the things, just to echo what Sharon had said, some of the times the younger folks don't feel welcomed by us, by the older folks. So we have to remember that too. We were all listen, I was once upon a time a kid at the fence of the airport eating a Kentucky Fried Chicken, watching airplanes, and we all have to remember that we all were there at one time. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. It's Rick Nida. I'm the captain of COPA Flight 70 Durham region. We, as a flight, we offer a 1-year free membership for students as well. And
Thank you.
so we have it's funny, we have very few people who, they sign up, but they don't actually come to the meetings, which is quite puzzling for us. One of the things that we also do is we reach out. We've got 2 flight schools at Oshawa Airport, and we quite frequently, once or twice a year, we go out and do an outreach to them, and we sit there for 3 hours and tell them that we're coming, and we come and encourage them to join us. So that's one of the things that we've tried to do from that, but it's tough. You know, you're right, it's a generational thing. Don't understand why, and I've got 3 younger children too that I talk to them about it, and they say the same thing. They feel uncomfortable, but we try to encourage them as much as we can and be as inclusive as we can, and that's part of our challenge on a local level, and I think that's part of the challenge on the national level as well. So just keep going. That's all you can do.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yogi. I live in Mississauga, being a member of COPA for about 10 years.
Thank you.
To some extent, yeah, it is a generational thing, but I also believe that for most of us, we got our pilot licenses because of our midlife crisis. But when it comes to the kids, it's up to us to encourage them. Like my daughter, she's the youngest pilot in Canada, it's PPL. Wow. She was 4 days short of 17. So I remember driving her to Brampton literally every day for 2 years. She couldn't drive, right? She didn't have a driver's license. So it's up to us a lot to encourage them. Maybe 30 years later, those kids today will have their midlife crisis, and it might be a little too late. So I think it's really up to us also to encourage the kids to do what's needed. But my question, though, I had a question like, is COPA kind of preparing, or do you know where we are with flying cars? That's going to be a big thing coming in the next 4 or 5 years as they have been tested, approved world over. And certainly you're going to have thousands of people wanting to fly. Is there anything going on in that direction, or anyone thought about it?
Well, certainly so aviation as we know it today, no doubt is going to change. We actually, and flying cars or EV tolls, or there's all kinds of things. Actually, it's a very exciting time. You almost might look back at this time and think these were the pioneers, because almost like the Wright brothers and how things were going. I'm not sure how everything's going to pan out about flying cars. I have my own opinion about the flying cars, but certainly things are going to change, and we are looking at ways of making sure that we are evolving along with the technology. We don't want to be the stuck in the past type of association. So we are looking at that. In fact, we were just talking about the board meeting yesterday about what does it mean to be more of an inclusive area, and thinking about what COPA is in the future and what it does. So it's a good question. Another question?
I do know that there was a question online about staffing at NAV Canada and how it's caused restrictions to airspace access. I believe that might be a question for Jim.
Jim, yeah, if Jim's got, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty much around the NAV Canada experience that I was talking about. So NAV Canada is challenged with staffing. They did lose a lot of people across the board, both in air traffic services and their technologies group and others as well, engineering. They're continuing to hire. They actually have the most people training this particular year that they've ever had in history. They recently just signed a contract with CAE for CAE to actually start training air traffic controllers as well. So they are working on the staffing issues. Of course, just like becoming a pilot, you don't do it overnight. Being a controller in particular could be up to 3 years, depending on the specialties that you do. So it's not something that's going to resolve overnight for sure. Just like the aviation industry, they're also challenged with candidates, people who are interested in doing it. So it is improving. The number of sites that are actually said to be short-staffed is down from the last few years. Again, one of the big challenges really with the NAV Canada sites now is staffing continues to be it, but the big thing that we're seeing in particular, I'll name a few, Boundary Bay in particular, I think it's St. Andrews in Winnipeg, the airports are actually reaching capacity, so it doesn't matter what the staffing is at this tower. The tower can be completely staffed, but they physically can't put more airplanes in the circuit because of the configuration of the airport and taxiways and et cetera. So they're looking at ways that they can manage that. So those are the bigger challenges, I think, to the future, maybe than staffing, but it will be time, but they are working on it. They're going full out on training, so.
Thanks, Sharon. My name is Phil Englishman. I'm a 30-year member. I just want to point out, if any of you people have an Air Cadet Squadron in your community, approach the Air Cadet Squadron, talk to the CEO or anybody on staff. They'll welcome you to come and talk to cadets. The cadets, some of them want to learn to fly. And what I've done with my cadets, take them up for a ride as well, either as a Young Eagle or as a COPA for Kids flight for them on an individual basis. I strongly suggest you talk to your Air Cadet Squadron to get these young people involved.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Pierre Drapeau, Quebec. Question probably for Jim. There was no period for him, so I'll approach him. It's the MOGAS problem there where super unleaded. George? Okay. I'll move around to George. Unleaded super has now ethanol in most of the country except on the northern part in BC and Newfoundland. Not all BC, but it's causing a problem for people using road tax or have a MOGAS STC. So I'll let it up to you to maybe develop.
Yeah, so as one of the TC working groups is the maintenance working group, and that's been a very large discussion on that. As a user of a Rotax engine in the past and someone who prefers MOGAS, it's harder and harder to find ethanol-free MOGAS, and our main task at the moment is making people aware that there is a lot more ethanol in fuel. I think the main concern is people have just been buying it from the pump and putting it straight in their aircraft. And if you have a MoGas SDC, that's instantly voided by any use of ethanol. And of course, if you do run ethanol, your aircraft may not approve of it. So last year, COPA tried to put together a list of fuel providers that did not have ethanol in their fuel. That is very difficult because apparently it can actually change from location to location. So we're basically saying at this point you should assume that pretty much all MoGas has ethanol in it. There was a pretty significant petition to try and get at least premium fuel to not have ethanol in it. We haven't heard anything from that so far, but there was a decent amount of signatures on that. So at the moment we're just hoping that something comes of that, but if not, just making people aware that it's less and less, well, there's less and less MoGas around. There are online resources because there are still at least some marine applications that provide ethanol-free MoGas, but we would just assume that it's got ethanol in it if you're buying it from a pump.
Thank you. Norm Mills, COPA 70, about an 8-year member.
Thank you.
Two things. Re-ethanol. I get 91 ethanol-free, lead-free, on the reserve on Scugog Island. Check your local reserves. A lot of them really don't care what Justin and his gang say when it comes to what you will and what you will not do, because they are to themselves, they are their own. And I paid $1.65 a liter for 91 ethanol free last week. So it's really not heavy money either. The other thing, a gentleman was talking about air cadets. I would like to see if we can get something going through COPA. This is important. Air cadets across Canada are technically in stand down as of today or tomorrow, for the most part, because it's the end of their year. DND, who controls air cadets, have said they can be absolutely nowhere where there is any alcohol served. That means they cannot sell tags in the Legion. They cannot participate in Poppy Day. That is one problem. The other is stand down is basically school year. I don't know how many other flights have their fly-in, their annual shindig get-together during the summer, but we cannot technically get volunteers from any Air Cadet squadron between the hours of tomorrow afternoon and Labor Day, because technically they do not exist. Okay. They cannot be anywhere in uniform. There can be no rank. There can be no booze. Nothing. Can COPA help argue with DND?
Well, I don't know if we can do that, but we certainly took the point that I think we need to be more involved with the cadets program. That's a potentially good place for us to start. So we appreciate that. So have a conversation. Thank you. Pardon me? We did many years ago, I know. I'm not sure what that was, what the agreement was, but we need to reactivate that maybe. So it's something for us to investigate. Let me just put it at that way. So.
Yeah, Doug Riley, COPA 149 Welland. Just a response to the gentleman there. We have I think it's 87, right beside our hangar where we have the Discover Aviation.
Yep.
They open their hangar. They have like a day when everybody comes. They come to Discover Aviation, and then they go through the cadet building. And we've had a lot of recruitment from that point of view. So it is viable, and I guess it's the fact that they're a neighbor, but it does work. And I hadn't heard of the stand down, but that's unfortunate. That shouldn't be. Anyway, that's our experience.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we have. Do we have questions online, Sharon?
We do.
Okay, let's read through those and then we'll.
Sure, we'll take that on. I guess I'd just like to add on, there's a lot of focus on young people, but
Yeah,
there's
it's very encouraging, actually.
very encouraging, but there's also other folks in your community that would benefit from you flying them up. We partner with tons of other organizations. We've got the Northern Lights Aero Foundation, the Canadian Women in Aviation Group, the Urban Pilots Network, the Black Aviation Professionals Network. So there's other groups that probably would be interested in flying up with you. There was a question or a few questions on ADSB for clarification. I know Jimmy went over it. Maybe it might be worth also addressing that we've got communication channels where we do share some updates on our advocacy issues. One question specifically was clarification for ADSB for GA. There's some confusion as to what the system is currently accepting right now. Some people say ground-based is being installed at major airports. So I'll leave that for the part one question on ADSB.
Yeah, so as I said in the presentation, so Class B airspace was May 16th. So to operate in Class B airspace as it stands.
And just to make sure, Class B airspace is 12,500 and above. To get to Class A.
And Class A, of course, was last year. There is a requirement that your transmitter transmits to space. Now, it doesn't say that it needs to be diversity. We have a large issue with that definition, is that it's not really specific and there's no real way to or the requirements that Transport Canada has published are not clear enough to say what is acceptable for a single source transmitter if it's bounded. The one particular indicator that seems to be saying that it's unacceptable is their probability of update, which comes out on the NAV Canada paper report. They're looking at 95%, I believe, or 96% or better in order to say that it's working properly. We know that update rate isn't even comparable to secondary surveillance radar. Secondary surveillance is actually less than that because it's only it's only 12 updates a minute or whatever, so every 6 seconds.
But I think CD and E is coming in not before 20. That's probably what the genesis of the question is.
Class C, D, and E is not before 2028. There has been no discussion whatsoever about what it's going to look like. The commitment has been that we're going to be sitting at the table for that. At the moment, if you're operating Class B in particular, you are not excluded from the airspace if you don't have the ability to transmit to space, but you need to file an accommodation request through NAV Canada, and in their recommended timeline is 3 days, and for various reasons, they're saying that they're working on trying to get it lower than that, but right now you should be filing if you want to go. Now, we did clarify with them in discussion that if you are flying at 12,000 feet, let's say, and have weather conditions that require you to climb higher or whatever, that you should request it. And they indicated that, no reasonable request, obviously, for an operational reason would be refused. If we were to see that, we would be interested in knowing that because we would be going back to them on it. I don't know if that answers the question, but
Sounds like there's been some really good updates on ADSB. If you are subscribed to our e-newsletter, which we hope that you are as a COPA member, we do provide regular updates there. We also have our advocacy pages on our website. Hannah will be posting more and more advocacy updates, and Delroy will post some of that similar information on our social media, but we do share that news with our members first. I'd say we have time for one more question.
Okay, one more. Yep.
There was a question on the relationship between COPA and Transport Canada. Is it effective? Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's effective. I mean, I would say this, and I'm going to be careful with what I say. I would say it's been more challenging for us to communicate with Transport Canada since COVID. because there just seems to be, and I would almost say too that some of the stuff we come out with the NPAs that were published in that were a perfect storm for what happened with COVID, and really the fact that Transport Canada has, this is Mark's opinion, I don't think they're as engaged as they were previously. So it's been challenging, but the people we're working with, I think, are understanding, and they want to be partners. They see us as partners with them in aviation safety. There's certainly some outliers there that still are pushing their own agendas through NPAs, and we're experiencing that. I will say this, that the response back from the membership on the various NPAs that we have are effective. And so I would continue that if we see things and say things and that, to go and read the NPA yourself and give your own comments, not just cut and paste. Because cut and paste, if they get 12,000 cut and paste, they have to answer once. But if they get multiple responses on things, they don't have to do that, and they have to actually consider everything that's being said. Was there another question, Sharon, or?
I would suggest that at this stage, if you have follow-up questions, just to find the staff or the directors in the room. We do know that there's a tour. Tom, if you could, Tom from the museum, if you could wave over there, we'll encourage anybody who's ready to go.
Yeah, and we're right at that time. So we're on a short timeline today, but thank you. If there was a question, if you want to just come and see me directly about the question, I'm more than happy to talk to you and answer it. So, okay, thank you. The museum tours are starting at 11:30 here, and then lunch at 12, which will be here, and then there's another museum tour at 1 o'clock. Thanks for attending.